All right, let's talk about the CMMC assessment. If you're in a leadership role, I know just hearing that phrase can cause a bit of stress. It often feels like this big, mysterious, high-stakes event looming on the horizon. Well, today, we're going to pull back that curtain and make the whole thing a lot less mysterious.
So what's the big question on everyone's mind? What really happens when the assessors show up? Is it some kind of high-pressure interrogation, a pop quiz on cybersecurity that you didn't study for? The good news is, it's none of those things. It's actually a very structured and, honestly, predictable process. So let's just dive right in and I'll give you a clear, step-by-step look at what you should actually expect.
You know, before we go any further, let's reframe this whole thing. A lot of the anxiety comes from what we fear it's going to be, this mysterious, subjective process that feels like it's designed to punish you. But the reality? It's completely different. It is structured, it is based entirely on evidence, and everything is verifiable. It's not about trying to catch you, it's about confirming your security is what you say it is. Think of it less like a final exam and more like a verification audit.
Okay, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We've got 5 simple sections. First, we'll continue demystifying the whole assessment. Then, we'll cover why your preparation is everything. After that, we'll take a peek inside the assessment room, then talk about how to avoid common mistakes, and finally, what happens after you're certified. Sound good? Let's go.
So let's kick it off with Section 1, demystifying the assessment. We really want to get to the heart of why this whole thing exists in the first place and, how it actually works on a fundamental level.
And here is the single most important word you need to remember: verify. CMMC exists to verify that your security controls are not just on paper, but are actually working. The whole era of trust us, we're secure based on filling out a questionnaire, well, that's over. This is all about evidence-based validation by accredited assessors, making sure that sensitive government data, what we call Controlled Unclassified Information, or CUI, is genuinely being protected.
And that leads us perfectly into what is, without a doubt, the most critical part of this entire journey. Section 2, preparation is your success. Let me be really clear about this. The outcome of your assessment is decided long before an assessor ever steps foot in your building.
Now, effective preparation isn't some dark art. It really just boils down to 4 essential steps. First, you've got to properly scope your systems. Define that assessment boundary. Second, you have to know exactly where all your CUI is living, no guessing. Third, you map the specific CMMC controls that apply to that scoped environment. And fourth, and this is the big one, you compile the actual evidence that proves those controls are in place and working.
All right, now for Section 3. Let's imagine you've done all that prep work. The assessment day is finally here. So what actually happens inside that room? What are the assessors really looking for?
So assessors basically use a 3-pronged approach to verify everything. First, there's the evidence review. They're going to look at your documentation, things like screenshots, config files, system logs. Second, they'll do staff interviews to make sure your people actually understand and follow the rules. And third, they'll do live observation, where they might ask someone, "Hey, can you show me how you do that right now?" And this really gets to the core of the mental shift you have to make. Assessors don't just read your policies, they verify they are in practice. I mean, you can have the most beautiful laminated policy binder in the world sitting on a shelf, but if your team isn't actually following it day to day, it's completely meaningless. The assessor's entire job is to connect the dots between what you say you do and what you can prove you do.
Understanding that gap between paper and practice leads us right into Section 4, avoiding common stumbling blocks. Now, this is huge because by learning where other organizations have tripped up, you can proactively make sure you don't do the same.
Okay, here are 4 of the most frequent pitfalls we see. First up, weak evidence. The reality check here is simple. If you can't prove a control is working with something like a screenshot or a log, for the assessment, it basically doesn't exist. Second, policies without practice. We've just talked about that. Believe me, assessors are trained to find that gap. Third, an over-scoped environment. Bringing too many systems into scope just explodes your cost, your workload, and your risk. You have to be precise. And finally, misunderstanding cloud responsibility. Just because your data's in the cloud doesn't mean it's not your problem. Your provider handles some security, sure, but you are always responsible for securing your data in their cloud.
And that brings us to our final section. You've done it. You passed the assessment. You got through it. So, what does that CMMC certification actually mean for your business moving forward?
This is such a critical distinction. Your CMMC certification is a point-in-time validation. It means that on those specific days of the assessment, your organization proved that the required controls were implemented. It is absolutely not a guarantee of perfect security forever. Maintaining that security posture is an ongoing, continuous job.
So when you boil it all down, the path to a successful CMMC assessment isn't some unsolvable mystery. It's a structured process that really just rewards preparation. The entire journey is about having clear, verifiable evidence, total organizational clarity on your security processes, and the discipline to maintain them day in and out. And that leaves us with one final and, I think, critical question to take back to your team. After looking at everything, your preparation, your documentation, your daily habits, you have to ask yourselves, is our evidence ready to tell our compliance story?